Discover the best in local business news with a subscription to the IBJ and Inside Indiana Business. For a limited time, try us out for just $1 a week for 8 weeks. Claim this limited time offer now at ibj.com/trial offer.
This is Inside Indiana Business Radio on demand for Thursday, September 25th, 2025. I'm Gary Dick. The Indiana Economic Development Corporation's Board of Directors has approved the public release of a forensic audit of the agency and affiliated entities, but it will be next week before the public gets a look at the document. Governor Mike Braun ordered the audit in April, citing unspecified concerns about potential impropriety at the IEDC. At its quarterly board meeting Wednesday, the board approved the public release of the audit and also voted to allow Elevate Ventures, the state's venture capital spinoff, to continue investment activities. Northern Indiana Public Service Company is continuing efforts to supply power to new data centers with plans for a new natural gas power plant in Jennings County. Our partners at the Times of Northwest Indiana report the Maryville-based utility has filed its plan with the Indiana Department of Environmental Management to build the 2,300 megawatt facility at the R.M. Schaefer Generating Station in Wheatfield. The U.S. Steel Board of Directors has approved the next phase of major capital investment plans as its integration with Nippon Steel continues. It includes approximately $200 million for improvements at Gary Works in Northwest Indiana, U.S. Steel's largest manufacturing plant. From the state's number one source for Indiana business news, you're listening to Inside Indiana Business Radio. Our Innovate Indiana series is on the move in October. Join us for Innovate Southern Indiana in New Albany, October 1st. Innovate South Bend Elkhart in South Bend, October 14th, and Innovate South Central Indiana in Bloomington, October 24th. The Innovate series is presented by Indiana University and Old National Bank. Each location will feature a powerful afternoon of ideas, innovation, and insight, and what's next for each region. RSVP now at ibj.com/innovate. The executive director of Indiana's public retirement system cautioned lawmakers Wednesday that an effort to aggressively pay down unfunded liabilities won't immediately free up more dollars, instead saying further analysis would be needed.
The Indiana Public Retirement System oversees nearly $55 billion in assets for 551,000 members across 16 accounts. The overall funding status of the system increased from 81% to 83.2% in the last year. The state's largest unfunded liability continues to be the teacher's pre-1996 defined benefit account, which has about $3.1 billion in unfunded liabilities. The state budget dedicates $1 billion annually to pay down that account, which is on track to reach funded status by 2028 or 2029, depending on market conditions. Executive Director Steve Russo warned that the state would have to continually monitor and potentially pay to keep that funded status as market conditions shift. There's always a risk of a major economic downturn. Lawmakers, particularly Senate Republicans, have added large chunks of cash to accelerate payment of the debt in recent years when the state was flush with revenue, and leaders have eagerly awaited for the day the state no longer pays $1 billion annually toward the fund. Those dollars could instead be used to invest in other programs or to further trim down Indiana's marginal income tax rate. Alex Brown, Inside Indiana Business Radio.
An Illinois-based cooperative that specializes in financial management and accounting services for farmers has expanded into Indiana with locations in West Lafayette and Indianapolis. Farm Business, Farm Management, which marked its 100th anniversary last year, serves about 5,000 farmers across Illinois, operating out of more than 30 locations. The board of directors for the Grissom Air Museum in Miami County has approved plans for a $750,000 expansion of the museum that will more than double its current space. The museum plans to break ground on the project next week. It will incorporate more STEM-focused learning opportunities and house its TB-58 aircraft indoors. This is Gary Dick for Inside Indiana Business Radio on Demand. Indiana's biggest names, their most personal stories. The Business and Beyond podcast brings you one-on-one conversations with the state's top leaders in business, sports, politics, and culture. If you want to know what makes Indiana tick, this is your show. Subscribe and listen wherever you get your podcasts or at ibjpodcasts.com.
The IBJ Media Podcast Network is the soundtrack of a growing state. Indiana is on the move, and you can hear it happening on the IBJ Media Podcast Network. We bring you the voices at the center of our economy, our courts, our companies, and our communities. Subscribe now and be part of the conversation that's building Indiana's future. Find all of our shows by searching IBJ Media in your podcast app or visit ibjpodcasts.com.